Record. All right, guys, welcome to our weekly workshop. Thank you for being a part of this. Today we have Christian with us. Christian is a indie developer who is creating a game called A Quest That Became Legend. I'm going to share a quick screen capture. This is the Twitter account, and on here you could see that this game is very much kind of reminiscent of like the old school um, group RPGs, the Might and Magics, the Dungeons and Dragons, way back in the day. Kind of brings you back to these things. And if you guys don't remember it, you're really young, and I don't blame you for not remembering it. This certainly, I remember going through the PC aisle when they used to sell PC games at like stores that were exclusive, like Comp USA and things like this. I remember looking at boxes and they had games exactly like this. So, really cool stuff to see. And we had Christian on here to kind of go over his indie development journey, how he got to this point, and what he's doing in building this game. So, Christian, thank you for being a part of this. I really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, could you start by giving us an idea? And I'm going to go ahead and pause this gameplay real quick. Give us an idea of how you got started as a software engineer before you started jumping into Unity.
Well, I started, started making small programs, back in 2008 or something, I think, because, mostly because I've always have a passion for programming, but also I was working in a place where I worked 1 week a day, 1 week afternoon, 1 week at nighttime. So I had a lot of time for myself where all my friends were sleeping or at work, and I thought it was the perfect time to learn some new skills. And since I always wanted to learn to program in a computer language like C sharp or C++, then I started finding some tutorials online, and I also ended out making a little game back then, very primitive, not anything special, but I was kind of stopped by the fact that I had a really hard time finding art for my projects, also like characters and all that kind of stuff. So I actually didn't make anything for almost 10 years after that. I think I still wanted to, but maybe I made a small scripts for something Windows based applications, but nothing special. And then I guess around 5 years ago or something, one of my friends introduced me to Unity and was like, oh, it's really cool game engine to make games in. You got to see this. And he had made a little very simple game and showed it to me, and showed me the asset store. And there was also one of the big things for me when I saw that. It was like, oh, it's really a lot of possibilities here. I can, because I'm a programmer first of all. That's where my passion is. I'm not a 3D designer. I can't really make beautiful 3D models and things like that. So if I was going to make a game by myself, I needed a place where I could buy some of these assets, or maybe even get some of them for free, as you can on the asset store on Unity. So after I seen that, I went home, and when I got the time, I downloaded Unity and started finding some of those basic tutorials on how to make some simple games, and I just went from there.
Now, you said you were a programmer at first. So you went you're in Europe. What country are you in? You're in
In Denmark.
Denmark. And
Yeah.
Does Denmark have a different education system when it comes to higher education? I've talked to a lot of people in Europe, and they tend to tell me, like someone in Germany said, "Oh, yeah, my education was like $2,000 total." What is it like in Denmark
Yeah.
as far as education?
Well, I guess when it comes to education in Denmark, you are kind of lucky because most educations in Denmark are free.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness, are you kidding? Like free?
yeah, no, 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 actually, no, no. you can actually even get not much, but a little money from the state while you read.
Really?
Uh, yeah. So
And
in that sense, it's kind of lucky.
what is the
Yeah.
typical time span of somebody going for a computer science degree in Denmark? Is it how many years?
Oh, I guess it depends, of course, on how deep you go, but I'll say around 4 or 5 years.
Okay. Now, when you got started, you didn't jump, of course, right into Unity. That was 10 years later. So, what did you do as soon as you got out of school? Where did you focus into?
Well, I have an education as something, yeah, that directly translate at least to something called an automation technician.
Mhm.
So for many years, I was building different kinds of machines and programming them, programming mostly something called PLCs. You
Mhm.
know, it's like a little computer where when you have a production line or any kind of machine almost today, there's a lot of motors and sensors and all that kind of things, and you connect them to the PLC and you program the PLC, and then the machine behaves according to the different kind of inputs and outputs and how you've programmed them to work together. So that was how I started programming.
Mhm.
So I programmed
Now,
as a living.
is
Yeah.
that like a line level, not object oriented, but a line level reads from top to bottom assembly language, kind of like a COBOL or something like that, or what's the idea behind that language?
Yeah, it's there's different kind of ways to program PLCs, but mostly many programs, at least unless they become very complex, can be programmed in something called ladder programming, and it's kind of a visual language where you can put in because it's when you program those kind of things, it's really much a thing of only digital values, like is the sensor seeing an object or not, is the motor running or is it not running. Of course you have a lot of analog values also, but that's more like how fast do you want the motor to run, or how much fluid do you have in your tank or something like that, what's the level and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and then
So,
you program it. Yeah.
what kind of machinery are we talking about in general? Like, are we talking about printers? You mentioned fluids. You mentioned all these
Oh,
other things.
no, it's actually big production lines. I think actually I have small videos of some of them if it's interesting. But I've worked different kind of places. I've worked with insulin,
Mhm.
repairing the machines at Novo Nordic that assembles these insulin pins. I don't know if you know them, but it's like it's kind of like a big ball pen or something like that, and you can click in the top how many units you are taking and all those kind of things.
Mhm.
And then I worked for a long time also with machines that sort different kinds of raw fur. You know, when they take the skin from some of the animals, then it needs to be sorted out in
Right.
how dense the hair is and the color and all that kind of stuff.
All right.
So that's a little more advanced with vision systems and that kind of stuff.
That's really neat. Okay, so you're in this, you're doing this. How long? 10 years or so, and now the bug has kind of hit you again. You started programming games, but you're not an artist. It never kind of came to
Yeah.
that fruition. At this time, of course, you're a gamer at this point. Are you playing any games that are really inspiring you at this point?
Well, I really like playing games, but I'm also very passionate about this programming, and this project has been ongoing for a very long time. So actually, most of the time, I'm just programming.
Okay.
But also, of course, I'm playing games once in a while. I have a friend also who likes to game.
Mhm.
So when he comes by, we usually play some games together. But when I'm alone, I'm mostly programmed right now. But
Gotcha.
you know, I really like playing Resident Evil and games like that. So whenever the comes a new one out or something, I definitely find the time to play it. So
Okay, so you got your full-time job. During the day, you're grinding, you're building these amazing machines to try to make them work, and then you get off and you're like, all right, I'm going to make my own game now. And then, is this the game that you initially wanted to do in Unity? Did you try a couple different other versions before you dove into this, or did you just start with this one?
oh no, I made a lot of small projects before I started on this one.
Mhm.
I needed to learn a lot before I felt ready to make a project like this. So I started out making, just some small projects to get to learn how all the basics were. And at the beginning, you're not, or at least I was not writing very much code in
Mhm.
an hour or something, because almost every time I wanted to do something, I was like, how do I do that?
Mhm.
I need to read on Google and find something and read the manuals, and what does that do, and how do I use this? And and then somewhere along the line, when you have done this for a long time, you start to know all the
Mhm.
commands in your head, and you get the experience, so you can just sit and program, and suddenly you get really much programming done in not that much time.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, but I started making small projects. You get an idea, oh, I want to try and make this, and then you make that, and then you get another idea, and oh, I want to make this, and you try and make that, and then I made some bigger projects. I had I think two projects before this that was also not anything close to this, but still big for that time. And and I learned a lot in the process. And at some point, the last one I made, got to a point where I was like, I've learned so much doing this project, that I want to make a totally new one where I can start from the bottom, and utilize all the stuff I've learned.
Mhm.
Because also in this project I have now, I think it's been going on for 2 years or something now. So when I look back at some of the code I made in the start, because you've gotten so much experience, you can see, if I made this now, I could make it a lot better. I could
Right.
make it so much more pretty, so much more beautiful, right? And that was kind of the thing I had with the project before that. It was like, it's working and it's okay, but I know if I start at the beginning with a new project, I can make something that's so much better.
Okay. So
Uh,
okay, so we start in here. And you said you started this 2 years ago.
yeah.
What games inspired you to build this one? What was the inspiration that it made you pull to this?
Well, the primary inspiration for this game was definitely a game called Might and Magic. I can't remember. I think maybe 6 or 7 or something like that. I really liked that game. I remember it from back in the late '90s, and it was like, when I got home from school, or in the weekends, I was almost always in front of the computer playing that game. And over the years, I've always been like, there should be more of those kind of games. I don't think there's been made so many, so I was really wanted to make one. But also, I think also, some of the things that made me want to make games started when I was very young, and
Mhm.
played all kinds of different games. Because you're playing a game and you're thinking, oh, this game is good, but I could make it better if you just did this and that, and oh, it would be so much more cool. And so you get that feeling that you want to make your own game. Of course, when you start making your own games, you also realize that maybe the reason why some of the games didn't always have all of the things that would make them super cool was because you have to stop at some place, and have limitations.
Mhm.
And it's also some of the things that I ran into with this project, because when I started, I was like, oh, I'm just alone. But I had made it clear for myself that when I started this project, I wanted to make a project that I made completely finished and polished and would want to try and get released for public.
Good.
So I was like, I need to make something that is not too overwhelming, something I can complete by myself. So I
Mhm.
actually started with the idea of something much more simple than what I've made.
Mhm.
But over time, I got so excited about the project and started to I should add this, I should add that, and then it just grew over time. And I can say I could do that because I have a full-time job. So I'm not I don't have to make this finish to make a living. I can
Mhm.
have it as a hobby project. Of course, if you are if you don't have work beside this, then you are more constrained by time limits because of course you have to have something pay your bills. So I
Mhm.
have the freedom of having my bills paid through my daily job. But it's no secret that, of course, it's a dream for me that at some point I could reach a place where I could live from making games.
Absolutely.
So that's the dream. But right now I'm keeping my day job. But I'm hoping that this project could open some doors for me and maybe give me enough money to start a new project, maybe full time. But I'll
Okay.
see when the time comes. I think the most important thing is that I'm enjoying it and I'm having fun, because I'm like, I would do this even if I couldn't make any money from it. So it's like it's a hobby, it's a passion for me.
So it's funny because you said something along the line of this was a smaller scope and I could really hone in on this and get this done. But I look at this game and I see an incredibly large scope here. I see not only a first person character, but I see a whole dialogue system on top of a RPG element, a skill tree that's attached to it. I see, enemy characters, attack systems, main quests, side quests, etc., etc. This is like World of Warcraft level of complexity. So how did this come about? Was this a lot from the asset store, or systems from the asset store? Did you buy a kit? Did you create it yourself? How did this come about?
Well, I don't know if you know the site called Humble Bundle,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I bought a lot of bundles over the years from Humble Bundle, and it really got me started because I got some of a lot of the characters, the enemies I'm using, I got at a very reasonable price through some of the Humble Bundles, which meant that I had a lot of assets to start out with. So I wasn't really limited by what I had of assets, and then I was like, if I need something, then I'm gonna buy it over time, and keep an eye on the asset store. And almost everything comes on sale once in a while. So,
Mm-hmm.
I've had my eyes on something, thought like, oh, that would be cool to have this environment in my game. Then I'm just keeping an eye out for it, and if it comes on sale, then I buy it, and maybe I buy it at full price if I need it right now, and it's not coming on. But I'd also say at the beginning I was more like, okay, this is just hobby project, don't spend too much money on it. But as time went by and I could see it really came together and was really nice, I was also more willing to invest a little more in it and say, okay, this is going to be something I'm willing to pay the full price for this asset so I can use it in my game.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. This. I mean, again, I look at this and this is gigantic and huge. So give me an idea, scope wise, of what this game is. Yeah, is this one where you start with a character and there's a main mission and there's several side missions along the way? Um, Give me an idea of how you structured this game to come about. and from the user experience and the player experience, what I should expect.
Yeah. Well, you have like in Might and Magic, you have several characters, but one person. So you when you walk around with all your characters. In my game, it's 4 characters, and then it's turn-based combat. So depending on how much initiative the characters have, they have their turn in that order. But one of the things I really wanted to make when I made the game, it was that you have a good sense of customization to your characters. Because I remember I've played a lot of RPGs over the years. I really like that genre, even if just not just Might and Magic, but also all kinds of other games like that. You know, Diablo and Baldur's Gate and what they're called, all of them. But I think sometimes what was a little disappointing for me when I played some of those games over the years. Of course, some of them were really good, but some of them were not as good. And some of the things that I at least thought was lacking in many of the games was the customization, and that you felt that you had made your own character that was unique. It's not just if you have a level 20 sorcerer, you don't just have a level 20 sorcerer. If you make a level 20 sorcerer, it shouldn't force you to have almost the same character as if I made a level 20 sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
But I put a lot of energy into trying at least to make it so that you could really feel that your character was a product of what you wanted it to be, and not what I, as the programmer or developer, wanted it to be. So there's a lot of room for making your characters in different kind of ways, and using the abilities and spells. So it's like there's 4 different kinds of classes.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I've been considering making 6 different kind of classes, but I'm not sure that I'm going to do that. But there's going to be 4 different kinds of classes. They are there now. It's like the warrior, a shaman, and a rogue, and warrior, shaman, rogue, and sorcerer. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a unique skill tree, each of the characters, and then they also have a lot of common skills that every character can learn, but maybe not every character can reach the same level within the skills. For instance, using heavy armor is a common skill that everyone can learn, but not everyone can be as good in it as the warrior. The sorcerer can't be as good as the warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when you get better at a skill like heavy armor, then for instance with the heavy armor, well, the armors give more protection.
Okay.
So
So
in
do
that
you
way,
have like when each one of these turns occur, do you have like a certain distance you're able to move in the first person perspective before you're no longer able to?
yeah,
I gotcha. Okay. So you can
you
kind of
have
position.
the field you can see between the 2 middle characters. The one called MP is move points. So you
Mm-hmm.
can see how many move points your characters have. They share move points.
Mm-hmm.
So in each round you can move a fixed amount, but it doesn't matter which of your characters' turn it is when you move. It counts for the same. And
I
also the
gotcha.
enemies, they can move different kinds of of move points.
That's incredible. And so do you have some sort of like main story behind this, or is it a bunch of side quests? What's the ultimate path that you want the player to take in the end? Or is this kind of open-ended, you explore it on your own?
No, no, it's story driven in that sense, with a start and an end.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because I really like games like that. You know, sandbox games can be fun, but for me, I often miss the sense of purpose where I'm told you need to go here now and do that. So I wanted to make a game like that because that's what I enjoy. So I sat down and tried to make a some kind of story at the at the best of my abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and in this uh, game I've made here, the story is not completely finished, but I have all the main points of it. And so you start out as these young adventurers who's just looking for a way to make fame and fortune, and they start out by visiting a little village where they had heard that they had a problem with some goblins, and there was a bounty out for these goblins. So that's your first main quest, and there's also a lot of side quests, of course. But the main quest is that you should find this village and learn more about this bounty. And as you do that, you get deeper into the story, and you find out that a lot of evil creatures have started to infest the different kinds of lands in this world, and it's because some evil entities called the Dark Conjurers have summoned up these creatures and are trying to force their way in through their dimension into our world.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the line, you get mixed up in all this, and you end out being the would-be heroes who set out to destroy these evil conjurers before they destroy everything you you love and have dear.
Gotcha. Wow, this is incredible. I am just blown away that this was created by one person, because this looks like the work of a team of 10 people grinding on this, and this looks really incredible. One of our students, Rich, I believe, asked where the objects are coming from, where the assets. And Christian mentioned the Unity Asset Store and the Humble Bundle sales that occur. Did you
Yeah.
also have an artist with you that helped develop a lot of this content, or along the way?
No, no, sadly not. It would have been really nice, but all assets in my game is coming from the Unity Asset Store,
Mhm.
and a really really good idea. Look at the Humble Bundle once in a while, because you can get some really really good deals at the Humble Bundle site.
Nice.
So, but one of the things I have been missing in this project also was I would really have liked to team up with someone who was a level designer,
Mhm.
because yeah, my passion is programming, and also level designing is also a very big part of the game, especially when it turned out to be as big as the one I turned out to make here. It wasn't my initial intentions to make the game so big, but as I said, I really liked the project, and I got so excited by it, and I just kept expanding the scope of it. But at this point, most of the programming, all the core functionalities and all this has been made and is working really really good. So most of my time right now goes with the level designing and writing the last parts of the story and the quests and all that kind of stuff. So
Gotcha.
it would have been really really nice if I had someone to work with who could have made these environments, so we could have a parallel process where I programmed, and this person could have made a lot of the levels, so they were done when I also were done with the programming. That would have been really really nice. Also because it's something totally different. I used a lot of time at the beginning when I had to level design, just learning the principles of making a good level and how to design them in a way that functions. And I actually made a couple of levels I spent a lot of time on, and
Mhm.
at the end I have learned so much about how to make a good level that I had to just delete what I had made and start from the beginning, because I could see that it wasn't so good at it as it should be.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the best advice I ever heard from somebody when explaining level design is it's all a concept of how long can you press W before you get bored. And you have to always take that into account in whatever you build. If you get bored at any point, you got to fix it. You got to change it. And you know, you talk to somebody who has experience. They look at your levels and they say, "This part right here sucks. Take this out. I've lost interest at this point. Change this, change this, change this," and then you see a really compelling level design. So would you like to maybe take us into the editor and show us a little bit about how this whole game works on your back end?
Yeah, we can take a look. Uh, so I'll just find it here and I'll share my screen. So yeah, so we're in the editor now. This is one of well, they're not done all of them because, like I said, I'm still working on the level designs. But the plan is that I'm going to make 8 worlds. I have two completely finished now, and as you can see, I'm zooming out here, so you can see the levels are kind of big.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Just a little.
yeah, I can see it's freezing a little now. I have to wait a minute, I think. But oh, that was way too much. But 8 levels. I have two completely different. A third one I'm still working on, and then I also have, of course, small instances. So yeah, though it's kind of big, some of the levels.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wow.
Um, but as long as I'm having fun, I think it's okay. So this is the main worlds, 8 of those.
Wow.
And then I have a lot of instances, like caves and temples and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of room to walk around and explore because I wanted it to not be totally linear, but also give players a possibility to explore because, like I said, one of my favorite games of those kinds were Might and Magic, and one of the things I remember very clearly from back in those days was the thing that it was like one big world, and
Mm-hmm.
when you reach the edge of one map, you had the option to travel to the next, and you could cross those borders as you wanted to, and that was some of the things that really that I really wanted to have in my game. Also, I can try and take some of the other scenes here.
Oh, there's
I'm
yeah. I
making
see crypts and caves and caverns and yeah. Wow.
so it takes maybe a little for it to load the scene sometimes. This is not such a big scene. This is just an instance. So I guess it's, yeah, kan vi lige se, om vi kan få den. See if we can get it to
Absolutely, absolutely.
zoom in on something here.
Now it looks like you're using a pipeline. Which pipeline are you using? Are you using URP?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm using the high definition.
Oh, HRP.
Yeah,
Gotcha. And you're it looks like on 2019.3.
yeah, yeah. I'm on 19.3. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't blame
actually
you.
tried
Don't
to
start
up.
converting things over, man.
No, no. I actually tried once because there were some bug fixes in one of the newer editions. I because at some point in this version I'm using now,
Mhm,
Unity have this global keyword for shaders.
mhm,
And
mhm.
I have actually had a big problem with that at some point because I'm using third-party assets.
Mm.
So I reached the global keyword limit for shaders, and I saw they had changed that in one of the later versions. So I wanted to try and upgrade, but that didn't go so well. So I have actually been forced to change some of the shaders and make it work that way, because yeah, because otherwise I couldn't have all those kind of different environments that I wanted to.
Mhm. Okay, so you have a. It looks like you have a nav mesh. So I'm assuming that most of your enemies are controlled via a nav mesh agent
Yeah,
as enemy AI, and I'm assuming they have like different state machines attached to them where they get within. Well, based on this is a
yeah,
turn-based system, there's probably some large piece of script that determine
yeah,
how many turns everyone's gets and what they can do, and then the enemy has a certain amount of spaces it can move, and then if it gets to a certain a position, it will either attack or it will just time out to the next session. If I'm correct.
yeah. And actually, navigation is actually one of the things I have had the biggest problems with in my project, getting it to work as I wanted it to, because there were some things about the nav mesh that just didn't really go the way I wanted it to. In
Mm-hmm.
the beginning, I had a big problem with the agents walking into each other. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
really take account that someone was standing somewhere, and I had to make a lot of additions to the code to get that to work. So at the beginning, I just wanted to make a, you have a component called a nav mesh obstacle. So it's like, oh, I'm just gonna give my agents nav mesh obstacles, so
Mm-hmm.
they are aware that they are where they are. But you can't have an obstacle and an agent on the same character, so you have to turn one of them off and the other on. And I actually had a lot of problems with that.
Oh wow.
So,
Okay.
so I'm really happy that it turned out in the end as I wanted it to.
Right. Right.
But yeah, but other than that, the nav mesh is actually pretty good for a totally built-in free
Mm-hmm.
functionality in Unity, I think.
So,
I was
oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, please, please.
I was just going to say that I was told that the A star project nav mesh, I think, on Unity should also be very good.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it at a sale once, but I was so far into the project that I didn't want to change anything at that point. But I was told by someone that it also was very good, and I should try to use that. So I thought, oh well, it's on a discount, so I'm gonna buy it, and maybe I'll try it in my next project,
Mm-hmm.
because I also have a lot of ideas for other projects. So
That's incredible.
I'm trying to
Well,
take another
so
scene
how,
here.
how are you going to get to these other projects? Because this game looks like it may take forever. Like, what is your real timeline of when you think you're going to be able to ship?
Well, I'm. It's hard to say, but I'm. It depends a little on how much time I also get to make. I can see this really dark on.
Oh yeah, I still see
On
the detail though. It's beautiful.
Yeah, maybe I can turn up the lights a little. And that's also one of the hardest thing with the scenes that is a little dark, because on my screen it's very light. But okay, it loses a lot of its atmosphere when you turn up the
Yes.
lights here.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Well, this
but
is
oh, I'm sorry, you asked me something there. Oh,
yeah
when I
about
yeah,
release. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's in alpha testing right now, so I have some people playing it, testing it. Mostly some of my friends, but also different kinds of people who have shown interest over Twitter or something, and say, "Hey, yeah, you want to try it? Give me some feedback." So I'm hoping, of course, that I can catch many of those uh, kind of problems while I'm designing the last of the levels. So I'm almost ready when I get the last kind of level designed. But I'm thinking that I'm I'm hoping I'm hoping that within the next 6 to 12 months I'll be done.
Perfect.
It's yeah,
So
because
we'll see it in 2 years then, right?
yeah. Oh, I hope not. I hope not. I really want to. Yeah, but I guess I have around. It is a big game. I have already around maybe 20 hours of uninterrupted gameplay in what I've built now.
That is
So
an incredible feat, Christian. I mean, it takes some people a long time just to build one level or just to get the design concept, and then they get to a point where like, I got here, I got distracted, I stopped, I didn't get to it. But you
yeah,
consistently push through it, and it really shows. I
but
mean, to have something this big, this amazing is incredible.
yeah, but yeah, it's because it's a passion for me. So I have had weekends where I didn't go out of bed and I turn on the computer and I sit and program in front of the computer. I sometimes for 12 hours or something like that. And maybe I go in and watch a movie or something, fall asleep, and then I get up and program again. And it's like, even though I sit in front of the computer so long, I'm still like, oh, I wanna do a little more. But yeah, it's not always I have so much time to do it, sadly. But I also have other things I need to to tend to, and I have a girlfriend also who thinks maybe I sometimes should spend a little more time with her and a little less time with the computer. But yeah.
Oh wow, that's incredible. Cool. So yeah, so we'll expect this relatively hopefully within the next year. This sounds fantastic. This is incredible what you've created. Thank you so much for sharing with us what you have generated thus far. Um is there anything else in this project you would like to show us first, and then we'll kind of steer away and then go talk about something else real quick?
Oh well, I don't really know. It's a big project. There's a lot of things, of course. I just think it's important that if you make such a project, yeah, no matter how big you make your project or how small you make your project, I think, of course, in the beginning, you're going to make a lot of small projects you maybe don't finish completely because you're in a learning process. But I think that even when you get into it, it's just important that you tell yourself at some point, I'm going to make this project and I'm going to finish it, no
Mhm.
matter how small or big it is, because that's, for me at least, have been a good driving factor, that I've said, I'm going to finish this, and then it doesn't really matter if it's big or small, but it gives some sense of completion to see that you can make it all the way. So for a long time when I was making this project, it took a long time before that there was something that you could actually call a game. And
Mhm.
when I got to the point where I could actually sit down and play actually for hours without any kinds of errors and interruptions, it really gave me something, and gave me this feeling that you can do it. It's possible, and and really gave me a lot of motivation to continue on the project. So I think, and of course, as even though it's my passion, I really love programming. I think you need to be aware of at some points is going to be tiresome and hard. But the most important part is just to keep going and just complete it, and so you can tell yourself that you actually are doing it, and it's going to get done.
Mhm.
One of the
Uh,
things that was a little hard to get through was all the creating all the items, for instance. That wasn't really exciting, just typing in stats and making kind of random generators to different kind of stats. And I think I have more than three or 400 different kinds of item images who have different kinds of names and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and trying to keep finding different kinds of names to these kind of items and stuff like that was that wasn't really the most fun part of my project, but I was glad I just kept at it and didn't just say, oh, this is boring, I'll start a new project.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Because yeah.
So Claudio asks, what was your favorite mechanic that you implemented into this game?
Well, I really like the way that you use your spells and skills, and how it looks when you, for instance, one of my favorite spells is a firewall. I just think it's really cool, and that you can turn it and place it as you want, and I really like that. But I think the thing I'm most proud of in my project is probably the path finding as it ended out. As I said, I had a lot of problems with it getting to work the way that I wanted, not having enemies walk into each other, especially because it's a turn-based system. So enemies, only one enemy is moving at a time. So when enemies were standing still in place, it was really annoying that as the nav mesh system worked out of the box, it was like they walked into each other and then they tried to correct and walk around the agent. But I
Mhm.
wanted it to make it a way so that the agent, before it started moving, took into account that another agent was standing at this and that location. So it calculated a path around them and didn't walk into them and then had this collision detection that told them, oh, there's something in the way, you need to turn around this agent or something. So I think that's what I'm most proud of.
That's awesome. That's incredible. And I'm assuming that the UI element system, that was something that was you found a kit for in Unity, and you're able to apply that to your game, correct?
Uh, it's actually, I've programmed the all of the UI from the bottom actually,
That's
and the
incredible.
inventory system,
Excellent.
because uh, I also, at the beginning, because if you can implement all kinds of assets like an inventory system or something.
Mhm.
But I kind of was like, when I started making this project, that I was still also in kind of a learning process. So I was like, I know I can make this faster if I just get an out of the box inventory system, but I really like to understand everything that's going on in the code in this project, and try and challenge myself and see if I could make an inventory system, for instance.
Mhm.
So it's actually built from the bottom. I can You can see, I don't know, oh, it's not shared anymore, but you can see how many scripters in the game here if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see.
Here, let's see if can you try sharing your screen one more time? Let's see if it comes
Yeah, so I'll share my screen here again. So you can see I'm
Yep,
gonna
I
start
could
at
see it. Yep, yep,
yeah, it starts here, right? And
yep.
then it just almost goes on forever. So I've been making a lot of scripts here. I
Gotcha.
have an I think it's called inventory handler. If I'm not remembering it wrong, we can try and take a look if Visual Studio is starting up just to see. And like I said, it's been also a learning process. I've been programming over 2 years on this project, so some of the code I'm more satisfied with than others,
Hmm.
but it's working. So you can see this is the inventory system. It's kind of a large script, but it's uh, it's working, and I'm pretty satisfied with how it ended out.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, awesome. So, out of curiosity, let's go ahead and let's step back from this and let's talk about you a little bit. So, when it comes to game development, what is your favorite game overall, and what was about it that inspired you and that was awesome?
Oh, my favorite game overall. I could see I didn't share the same window, so you can see this is the inventory script. It's kind of a big script.
It's just 3,000 lines of code. That's all.
Yeah. So, but yeah, one of my favorite. You asked my favorite game, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, it depends a little on the type of game. Might and Magic is definitely one of my favorite RPGs. If I should take a newer RPG that's a little different, it's well, I don't know if you know the game called Divinity,
I've
but
heard of it, but I've never
it's
played
kind
it.
of it's not so old. It's kind of a couple of years old. I really love that game also. It's an RPG, but it's one where you see it from above, so it's something different from the game I'm making. But I'm also always been really happy about horror games and first person shooters.
Mm-hmm.
So Resident Evil have always been one of my top favorite games. I was also very happy about uh, Doom. It's
Mm-hmm.
also actually my first game I got. Yeah, I guess it's back in the 90s was Doom. I remember I got my mother to buy it to me. Was on 4 diskettes,
Yeah,
and I just played that game and probably way too young to play that game, but
yeah,
but
yeah.
I liked it a lot. So I have my next project once I'm done with this at some point is going to be a first person horror shooter. You know, something kind of mixed between Doom and Resident Evil.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So is there any game that you've played recently that you've kind of sat back and say, dude, I really wanted to love this game, but it was just something missing in it that really made it phenomenal?
Well, yeah, I guess there's kind of a couple of games like that because I know I've played some that I didn't really like. One of I when I'm thinking now, I think the one I think that disappointed me the most was probably Doom Eternal. I think
Hmm. Hmm.
because it's not that it's a bad game. It
Hmm.
was just something totally different from what I expected Doom to be. They
Hmm.
changed some of the core functionalities of the game. So for me, it wasn't the game that I loved back when I was a kid.
Gotcha.
So I got a little disappointed over that because you can't say it's a bad game because it isn't. It's really good, made really good, but the gameplay was just not what I had
Right.
in mind when I thought I was going to play Doom.
Now, what was it about the gameplay that was a struggle that was different than what you were expecting?
They introduced a lot of platforming elements into the game. It's kind of where you had to jump from pole to pole and swing around and double jump and all kinds of things. And also, they made a change to how you get the ammo in the game. You are mostly getting ammo by using the chainsaw on enemies, and then they drop ammo. Whereas in the earlier kinds of game, they were just more like laying around.
Hmm.
So, like in the new Doom, the Doom remake of Doom, or what we're going to call it before Doom Eternal, I really liked that also, and the chainsaw was like really cool to use, and it was like something you used a little here and there when you had the gas for the chainsaw, but it felt like kind of a chore in the new game,
Hmm.
like you were forced to use it all the time because you had to get the ammo from the enemies and that kind of stuff. And I
Mm,
can see why some people thinks it's a good game because it's I can't say it's a bad game. It just wasn't the game that I expected when I bought it.
gotcha. That makes total sense right there. Interesting. Okay. And I'm assuming that if you didn't have to work for a living, you would just build games for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah, I really like building games. It's my passion. It's how I relax. It's how I I have a lot of fun also
Mhm.
uh, building those games. And I think I've always liked to be creative, and I think game development is such a good way to be creative. It lets you be creative in so many different kind of ways. When I was younger, I liked to make small circuit boards and play with electronics and stuff like that. And I also like that a lot. But you have so many more possibilities when you are creative game developing, and everything is available right at your fingertips almost all the time. You don't have to go on a website and order some kind of component and wait a couple of days for it to come with the mail and all those kind of things. You can get a good idea, and you can start creating it right now and right here.
Mhm.
And
You
that's what I really like about it.
you spent a lot of time buying different plugins and testing different things out in Unity. Is there any plugin that you got that you said this is an essential? If you don't have this, get it now because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Well, I think I have to think about that. I know there's something. Let me think for a while. I have. It depends on what you want to make, of course. But at some point I bought a package with a lot of skyboxes, for instance, and I think that's a really good thing to do. It wasn't very expensive, and I think there's maybe 100 different kinds of skyboxes.
Mhm.
And a skybox is something you need for almost every project. So
Yes.
it's so nice just to have a big library of skyboxes, so you don't have to think about that when you make a new level. And also, well, I think I've bought what's it called? I think it's called something like Ram River or
Yes,
something like
I've
that.
seen this. I actually got that. Everyone's like, this is like the easiest water simulation tool.
Yeah, it's so easy to make good and nice looking water, and also they also have an environment you can use it for where you can make lava and things like that. So I think that's a really good thing to have when you create levels. If you are going to make levels that have water, that's definitely something to buy. I think that's also yeah I bought some of the fantasy icon mega pack, I think it's called. It's also have really uh, many different kinds of icons. If you're making a fantasy game like I am doing,
Mhm.
definitely buy a pack like that. There's probably more, but the thing that you just have a big library with different kinds of icons. It's kind of like the same thing as having the skyboxes. It just helps you so much when you're game designing that you don't have to, every time you have to make something, have to go in and search the Unity store, but that you can just look at something you already bought and say, oh, I need to make a fireball. Okay, this looks like a fireball. I'm going to use this. It saves you so much time that you just have a library to pick from.
Awesome. So, one of the things we like to usually close out with is usually we have Tom Fox on here, and he adds a question. It's our Unity developer question of the week, and usually we say that if you understand this, then you are able to call yourself the greatest Unity developer of all time this week. Unfortunately, Tom is not on here today, so I am going to throw the question out, and so I'm going to post this question onto chat. If any of you and now this one isn't a code question, this is like a using Unity question. If you know it, go ahead and type the answer in. But if and the first person who does gets to call them the greatest programmer in Unity this week. So here we go in 1 2 3, and there is the question. Oh, Oh, sorry. Let me post this to all. Hold on. To false start to everyone in meeting. All right, here we go. Da 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 da. Here we go. So it is a Cinemachine question. If there are 3 different cameras in your scene, explain to me the 2 ways that you can swap between the different cameras. Now, timeline or using a script doesn't count. I mean, like realistically, how do you go from one camera to another to another? Intense Googling noises. Hmm. Hmm. Let's see. Has anybody come up with this? Live camera setting. Tapping fingers. Okay. I am going to give it 1 more minute, and then I'm going to assume that I stumped these guys this week. Don't worry, we're going to be putting you guys through a Cinemachine course, and you're going to learn how to do this. And I guarantee you, when you do, you'll never use the regular camera again. Turn on and turn off pertaining cameras via scripts. That is one way. Very good. Wesley, you got one of them. Yes. Let's see. All right. So I think Wesley got the furthest on this. Okay. So in Cinemachine, there are each one of your cameras has you could have, let's say, 20 cameras in your scene in Cinemachine. And these are the virtual cameras, and they can be different types. They can be free looks, they can be follow cams, they can be third person cams, they could be any type that Cinemachine offers, right? And there's 2 different elements to it. There's the aim element to it, and then there's the body element to it. So the aim is going to explain how it looks, and the body is going to explain how the camera moves according to what it's looking at, right? So in order to swap between these cameras, though, in the old days, you would have to either create a new camera and move that camera position to where you want it to be. With Cinemachine, all you have to do is turn off all the cameras that you don't want. So the easiest way to have one camera take control of your entire scene is shut off all the virtual cameras and then have the one that you do want turn on, and your camera will move to that particular camera position and look and behavior based on your Cinemachine brain. So you could run that through a for loop. You could take all your cameras and have those all in an array, and you could say, I want camera 3 to turn on, or turn off all the cameras and then turn camera 3 on, and they will move to that position. That is one way you can do it. The other way is Cinemachine has in every virtual camera something called a priority. And usually they set the priority of each camera to 10. And as long as it's set to 10, all cameras are going to assume to be equal in priority. But if you set one camera to a higher number, let's say 15, 20, 25, that automatically becomes the dominant camera. And so now all your main camera will move to that dominant camera and assume that virtual camera's information and that behavior. And then if you set another camera to 25 or 30, a higher number, it will now move to that particular number. So in essence, you can build, let's say, a simulation like a car simulator where you're driving and you have your left camera, your right camera, your third person camera, and your main front view camera. You can swap between all of them either by turning off all the cameras that are not important and just leaving the one that's on, or you can go in and manually in an array adjust the values of which camera has the highest priority. So you could say all these cameras set to 10, but camera 2 you're set to priority 15, and now your camera is going to take that camera 2 position because that's the highest priority. So 2 different ways to use Cinemachine, and be able to swap between cameras in a game. Another question is now, how do you make a mirror with cameras? I think you used to be able to a mirror with, you mean like inverting the world? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, you mean like a texture that mirrors the world, right? Is that what you're trying to talk about? Like projecting a texture, yeah. I don't cover it. I don't necessarily know. I would imagine, because I know you can do a scope where you can apply a camera to a texture and you can actually sit that camera view into a polygon. Um, but that is actually using not Cinemachine. That's just 2 different cameras in your scene. And one is looking through and projecting it onto a texture versus the other. I'd have to go through. I believe that's how it's done, though. I think John's got a brand new course coming out that's going to be covering how to do that scope feature, where now you can plop into the view of the scope lens and see what's going to happen. But great guys, great job, guys. Wesley, I think you were the closest to it, so I'm going to give you credit as the greatest Unity dev this week. So good job. Awesome, guys. Well, Christian, thank you so much for being here. This is a lot of
Yeah, thank
fun.
you. Like
Um,
being here.
your game is like incredible. It's huge. It's big. It's dynamic. There's so much that's been completed on it. I'm really looking forward
Thank
to
you.
seeing how much further it goes, and love to see the final product. If you are interested in beta testers, let us know. And we got a bunch of people on here who would love to be able to hop on and um, be able to check that out. So,
Yeah.
just let us
Well, I'm going to release a new alpha version within the next month, maybe
know. Okay.
even sooner.
Okay.
So yeah, if anyone is interested in trying it, they're welcome. Yeah.
That's perfect. That's awesome. And then yeah, other than that, everyone else, let's have a great weekend. It's Friday in our world. I'm assuming it's Friday
Yeah,
in your
also
world as
Friday here.
well.
Yeah,
So
very nice.
yeah,
Very
so
nice.
everyone else, enjoy the weekend, enjoy yourselves, be safe. And again, Christian, thank you for being a part of this, and I really appreciate you taking out the time. Is there any last words that you'd like to tell anybody before we call it a wrap?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, just thank you for having me. Yeah, and everyone have a nice weekend.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. Let's see. 1 second.